Hey everyone, welcome to the show. When you think about John and Paul, it's easy to get caught up in the music, right? The hits, the albums, the whole Beatlemania phenomenon.
It's unavoidable, really. Their impact on music is so massive.
Absolutely. But their story goes way deeper than that. It's a story about a creative partnership, sure, but even more so, it's a deeply human story, full of complexities and emotions.
And sometimes I think even heartbreak.
Definitely. This deep dive, we're taking a close look at a biography that really tries to unpack that relationship, the one between John Lennon and Paul McCartney. And it's fascinating how it takes this huge cultural phenomenon and brings it down to a really personal level. It made me rethink a lot of what I thought I knew.
It's interesting you say that because I had a similar experience. It really challenges some of those simpler narratives we often hear.
Exactly. So for anyone tuning in, we're diving into a biographical work that explores really deeply the relationship between John and Paul. It goes all the way back to their first meeting in 1957, way before the Beatles, and traces their journey through the crazy years of Beatlemania and all the way to the breakup and even beyond. And it really focuses on the bond they shared, which was incredibly passionate, tender at times, and yeah, sometimes really strained. And it does all of this while placing their story against the backdrop of their music and the way they changed culture.
And I think one of the things the book does so well is highlight how their personal experiences, especially early in their lives, shape their dynamic.
Oh, for sure. Like their mothers, both of them losing their mothers at a young age, that had to have a huge impact on them, both individually and in their relationship.
Absolutely. The book makes a compelling case that this shared experience, even though they each dealt with it differently, really formed a kind of foundation for their connection.
That's so true. And you see that reflected in their songwriting too, which the book does a great job of illustrating. You've got John with his raw emotional style, and then you have Paul, who is more structured, more melodic. And the book really shows how those two approaches, that push and pull, that tension even, became the magic ingredient in so many of their iconic songs. We talk about creative synergy.
You can really feel that dynamic in the music, can't you?
Totally. And beyond the songwriting, another thing that really struck me was just how deep their emotional connection went. I mean, it wasn't just a working relationship. They really relied on each other, almost like brothers. There was this unspoken understanding there.
You mentioned that the book highlights their emotional connection. Were there any specific moments that stood out to you as really illustrating that?
There was this one part, and I don't want to give too much away, but it describes this really vulnerable moment between them. It takes place during a really stressful time for the band. And it just shows how much they needed each other, even when things were falling apart.
It's interesting that you say that because I think one of the things the book does so well is show how those moments of vulnerability, those cracks in their armor, so to speak, were actually essential to their creative process. It wasn't all sunshine and roses. They had their differences, their conflicts, and sometimes those conflicts came from artistic disagreements, but other times you could sense that it went deeper, maybe stemming from personal insecurities or anxieties.
Yeah, for sure. And the book doesn't shy away from that. It really explores those more challenging aspects of their relationship. I mean, nobody's perfect, right?
Yeah.
And these were two very complex individuals who just happened to create amazing music together.
It reminds us that they were human, just like us, with flaws, with vulnerabilities. And somehow, those vulnerabilities became part of the alchemy of their creative partnership.
It's pretty remarkable when you think about it that way. Now, as much as I love the book, there were a few things that weren't quite perfect. Sometimes it felt like it got a little too bogged down in the details. Like the author would go into these incredibly detailed accounts of their schedules and their every interaction, which is great for research, but as a reader, I found myself skimming those parts a bit.
I see. So sometimes a little too much information.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing is, well, the later years of their relationship, knowing how things ultimately ended, reading about those later years can be a little tough emotionally. It's almost like watching a train wreck in slow motion. This amazing partnership slowly falling apart.
Yeah, I can see how that would be hard, especially given the tragic way John's life ended. It casts a shadow over everything.
It does. But even with those things, I'd still give this book a solid 4 out of 5 stars. It's insightful, it's well-researched, and it really captures the heart of their creative partnership.
So a must-read for anyone who wants to understand the people behind the music.
Absolutely. It's a deep dive into a relationship that changed music history, but more importantly, it's a story about the complexities of human connection, creativity, and, yeah, even heartbreak. So if you're interested in learning more, we've got a link to the book on Amazon down in the description. Be sure to check it out.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations of fascinating topics.
Thanks for joining us today. We always love hearing from you, so let us know down in the comments what your biggest takeaway was from today's deep dive. What surprised you the most? What resonated with you?
We appreciate you being here, and please feel free to share this deep dive with anyone you think might find it interesting. We're all about spreading the love for knowledge and good conversation.
See you next time.